Water is critical for maintaining life on our planet. Oceans, coasts, and freshwater ecosystems provide essential goods and services for food security, economic development, and the well-being of an increasing global population. The Global Environment Facility has worked for over 20 years to address the increasing number of threats to our planet's ecosystems. Every 2 years, planners, decision makers, scientists, and project managers come together to plan, deliberate, and share information on the international waters portfolio of the GEF. The journey from the first IWC event in Budapest to subsequent gatherings in China, Brazil, South Africa, Australia, and Croatia has helped to foster discussions to protect and manage the world's oceans, coasts, and freshwater ecosystems. We now gather on this idyllic small island of Barbados to share experiences and ideas about economic valuation as a tool to bridge the science policy gap.
On the conference topic itself and on this session, because what we are looking at is to capture the best practices and lessons from the projects on how do you convince the governments to use this economic valuation as a tool.
I expect that I will learn here, and basically what I'd like to learn most is how we could apply economic valuation to convince our policymakers in coming up with a policy that would really conserve and manage our marine resources and environment.
To be able to get the understanding of how one can do economic valuation and how one can communicate this to policymakers so that decisions are taken based on the right information.
I am really here to learn more about some of the techniques and approaches of economic evaluation for ecosystem services. What are some of the tools, data, what are some of the best practices, as well as to interact with colleagues from different parts of the world who have had this experiential knowledge, and perhaps to discuss some areas of future collaboration.
And to learn and to hear experiences from other international waters projects. What were some of their lessons, what were some of their challenges, and how they overcame it.
What should the projects be looking at over the next couple of years to really challenge themselves, challenge the stakeholders they work with, challenge the governments they work with to really step up and do things better and do things better more quickly and more effectively?
Well, I am very excited about the topic, and I think that the topic of economic valuation is very timely because we at the UNDP GEF project are having very little experience comparing to some other organizations in how to value and where to direct each and every dollar, and what impact and what value the action then has, so that value for money that we are talking very much about. And the other aspect of it is that this is a very powerful and probably the only tool to communicate with the governments.
That the International Waters Conference has been, hosted within a small island such as Barbados, and for so many years it's been so difficult to convince the international waters portfolio sometimes that our common shared resource is the Caribbean Sea, and any activity that takes place on land is going to affect our shared waters very, very quickly. So I think it's an opportunity for donors, for partners to see how do we actually link some of the land-based activities to coastal, and it's not as easy for some of the more continental countries to appreciate that linkage. But when you're in a small island and you have a rainfall event in the hills an hour ago, you see the impacts directly in the sea.
Let's stand back and evaluate. Let's put figures to the values of our marine, coastal, and freshwater ecosystems. Let's immerse ourselves in best practices and innovative approaches to protecting and managing the ecosystems that sustain us.
It is my distinct honor to welcome you to Barbados on behalf of the government and people of Barbados.
Making IWC7 work will depend on your active participation over the coming few days.